Here we go. There's Jerry. Okay, the people are just running a little bit late tonight. That's all. So once Jerry connects, we'll go ahead and we'll do introductions. Welcome, Jerry. How are you? So we'll just do a quick, people are running a little bit behind tonight, so we'll just start with a brief introduction and let people come in as they arrive. So I'm Johanna Rasmussen. I'm the chairwoman of the neighborhood, and we host our meetings. We have bi-monthly meetings. We've been hosting them on Zoom due to COVID. I've been the chairwoman for a little over 2 years now. And I will pass it off to Keith. Keith, would you like to go next?
Well, thank you very much, Johanna, and welcome to everybody. My name is Keith Blackie, live near the intersection of Foothill and Jefferson, very engaged in local activities as a Redwood City Library, scout leader, AYSO referee, etc.
Great, who would like to go next? Jerry, do you want to go next?
Sure. Okay. Hi, Jerry Brick. I live on Crompton Road. And I'm actually out right now in the RV camping. So the lighting isn't that great, but I'm here. Didn't want to miss the meeting.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you so much for joining us and bringing us along on your camping trip. That's awesome. All right, Chris, do you want to go next?
Chris Rasmussen, you have to turn it down. Sitting across the table from Johanna. Retired police officer.
Redwood City.
Thank you.
All right, Leslie and James, do you want to go next?
Sure. Sorry, we have to switch devices. I'm Leslie. This is James. We live on Farm Hill Boulevard, and we've lived here for about nine years,
Yeah.
yeah, something. And we really appreciate these meetings and all that Johanna and Chris do for us.
Thank you. That's very kind. Sandy, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm Sandy Picolny. I live on Highland Avenue. We've been here about 28 years. Just love the neighborhood. And I appreciate these meetings. I can't make it to Thursdays. We have bowling. So I was happy to see a different night this month.
Oh, good. Well, we're really glad to have you here. Gail, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sorry, I sent you a message that I couldn't log on, but I got some tech support, so I am here now. And hi, everybody. I didn't know my neighbor Sandy on Highland. I'm down the street.
Oh, hi.
That's
I'm at the house with the little library.
Oh, cool. Nice.
That's great. That's wonderful. I'm glad that you were able to.
I have the peace pole in front of my house.
Okay.
That's great. And you've been here, you've lived here a long time too, right, Gail?
You know, I keep losing track. I think it's 25 years, but I'll have to
Okay.
really do the math one of these days.
So you guys have been neighbors for quite a while.
It's a steep hill with steep
Yeah.
driveway.
Oh, okay. I remember some of those hills when we were campaigning. Oh my goodness, walking those hills was rough. Okay, Jennifer, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Tipton, and I'm over here on Eden Bower. So good to meet you all. Sorry, I don't have my camera on tonight. I'm Friday night watching some kids, so it's a little crazy around the house. I'm also one of your Parks and Recreation and Community Services commissioners. So if you have any ideas or any thoughts that you'd like to share, I'm here to listen. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for being here, Jennifer, and thank you for serving. We appreciate that. All right, and Jenny, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Jenny. Tonight, I'll be acting as the staff liaison between this association meeting and the city staff. And so I'll be giving some brief updates later on and also keeping everybody at the city aware of what's going on at this neighborhood association meeting. So if you see me typing, I'm taking notes and writing down your questions as well. So.
Well, thank you for being here. I know we're one of the more active associations, so thank you for being here and being interested in what we're up to. So, all right, so we will go ahead and get started. So we're going to start with a presentation on the Downtown Streets Team. Downtown Streets Team is a program that came to Redwood City about 2 years ago. And Downtown Streets Team, well, I won't, Chris will go ahead and present and tell you what they're all about. They're a great program. I'm really happy that they're going to be around a while. And so I'll just pass it over to Chris to get started.
Hold on, sorry.
I'm unmuted. Okay, try now. Can you do it now?
All right, can you guys see that? Can you hear me? Everything's good? I got no feedback from across the table? All right, good. It changes when you share your screen, so sorry. I had to figure out how to get that audio started. So in my retirement endeavors, I was recently appointed to the Community Advisory Council for the Downtown Streets Team. So what we are, I'll explain it to you here, but what we wanted to do is start going to all the neighborhood association meetings and kind of telling, if you don't know about Downtown Streets Team, or if you don't know about our new Community Advisory Council, we want to hit all the neighborhood meetings as much as we can and do as much community outreach as we can to kind of make people aware. And so I figured this would be a great time to test this presentation and with the safe people that we know. So I was hoping one or two of my colleagues would come, but they are not here. So we'll go ahead and get started. If you're not familiar with Downtown Streets Team, they're an organization that was brought here about 3 years ago. I was working as the homeless liaison officer for the police department, and there was a lot of gaps in services here in Redwood City. And when I found Downtown Streets Team in Palo Alto, this was the absolute best program that I found that would fill a lot of those gaps that we did not have here in Redwood City to address homelessness. And so we worked with the city, and we got some money from the city from the housing and homelessness initiatives. And so we were able to pilot this project for 2 years. And I think I'm pretty confident. I think they just signed their 3rd year contract with the city. So it's a really great program. And now we're trying to expand, and hence the Community Advisory Council. A couple of things on homelessness. Let me see if I can get this bigger. Or not. There we go. All right, so some stats on homelessness. There's over 500,000 homeless people nationwide, probably around 150,000 here just in California. I know for a fact there's about 300 just here in Redwood City, and that is usually merited to that Redwood City is the county seat, so all of the services are here. The jail's here, Social Security's here, all the services are here, mental health services are here. So that's why we have a much larger population of homelessness in Redwood City, is because of the county seat and all of its services. California has the largest unsheltered population in the US. And obviously we've seen that it's growing. It's not stopping, especially with this COVID. Homelessness affects everyone. It puts a drain on everything. As we see, it puts a drain on police, the criminal justice system, public health and hospitals, taxpayers, the environment, cities, city hall. I mean, we put a lot of services for the city for homelessness and housing. They did a survey once, and it was, what's the worst part of being homeless? And you can see a bunch of check marks there: cold, having to stand in lines, no privacy. But the biggest one that homeless people would say was the way that people look down on them. And they have no self-confidence, that they're very, they don't have any respect. They don't have any self-worth. And so that makes it even worse. And so that was one of their biggest things. When you actually ask them what their biggest problem was, it was the way that people looked at them. Homelessness is not an experience. It's not an identity. These people don't go out there to be homeless. It's something that they're experiencing at the time. What Downtown Streets Team does is it restores the dignity and hope and purpose while providing a path to recovery from homelessness. It's a volunteer work program that has been implemented in 7 cities across Northern California. And we are the first city in San Mateo County to have the Downtown Street Scene program. There we go. Unhoused people at risk of homelessness. This is their model that they have. And hold on, I can't read the screen with everybody's picture there. Unhoused people at risk of homelessness volunteer to beautify their community. In return, they earn non-cash basic needs stipends, case management, employment services, and support network. So this is a really important part of this program. Is a lot of the programs that are out there will provide the services, but a lot of people aren't ready to accept those services. So it takes a long time to actually get someone to accept homeless services. They don't trust the people, they don't trust the police, they don't trust that it's going to work for them. And so it takes a long time to build relationships that way. Another homeless program in Redwood City feeds the homeless. They don't provide any case management or employment services or any support. They do a good job at feeding the homeless and providing food and basic needs for the homeless, but they don't wrap around the services. What was the unique model about Downtown Streets team is that they're putting people to work, building their self-respect back, and giving them, in essence, a salary, whether it's a stipend for Target or it's for groceries or whatever. They're giving them something for their work, and that's an important part of this program, because it really comes down to, you know, giving them their self-respect back, their self-worth back, giving them an employment opportunity, and then being around like people that are doing the same thing. Downtown Streets team here in Redwood City started in October 2019, but honestly, it started about a year earlier when I realized that we needed to bring this here. I worked very hard for over a year to try and talk with stakeholders and residents and communities and businesses, and really try and lobby them all to accept this program here in Redwood City. And so it was really, it really started way before that, the inspiration and the spark to try and bring these people, this program here. It's a 25-person team right now. Members are unhoused, in unstable housing, disabled, or extremely low income. And the shifts mostly work downtown, cleaning up the streets. They did recently get a van, one of the old work crew vans from the city. And so they're able to be mobile now. So you'll probably see them out there cleaning up some camps. And if there's a large debris somewhere, they're able to be mobile, a little bit more mobile to cover a little bit more of the city. So far, since 2019, they've housed 8 individuals, 13 find stable employment, and they removed nearly 200 barriers to self-sufficiency and removed about 130 tons of garbage from the streets right here in Redwood City. If you've seen these guys around the town, you'll probably notice the shirts that they have. And here's just a kind of a breakdown of what they wear. If you see a yellow shirt, they're a team member. A green shirt's a team leader. Blue shirt's a team manager. Purple shirt is a team supervisor, and a gray shirt is a graduate. And it's interesting because a lot of the graduates will come back and continue to work because they find this program such a great program, and they aspire to be mentors to the yellow shirts to try and raise them up. And it's a big deal to them when they graduate from a yellow shirt to a green shirt. It's a big deal, and it's widely celebrated among the team because that's a big achievement for them. Mm-hmm. Some of the impacts, I'll go through this. This is the citywide, not citywide, but this is Downtown Streets team wide. So the 7 cities that they cover, this is their statistics for all 7 cities, not just Redwood City. 920 people housed, 955 jobs held over 90 days, 8 million gallons of debris removed, 57,000 needles. That's pretty impressive. And this is from 2005 to 2019. So you can just see some of the stats there. Pretty impressive. Some surveys results from the actual homeless people or unsheltered people. You know, they're proud to be a member and give back to their community. They report a positive health outcome. They're using less alcohol and drugs. You know, you have a schedule, you have a job, you have to be there at 8 in the morning. You know, you have something to do. It's a lot more motivating than to just sit there and drink all night or use drugs. A lot of them are engaged with mental health treatment, which is important to me. Team members now have health insurance, and they have decreased encounters with police because of the Downtown Street Scene program. Just here in Redwood City, there's 200,000 gallons of debris have been removed. 78,000 total cigarette butts, and 341 total needles. And that's from October 2019 to just this August 2021. So what is this Community Advisory Council? I've gotten a couple questions so far. What did DST do wrong? Why did they need an advisory council? What's the problem? Why are they doing this? Well, I think those people are confusing oversight with advisory council. Advisory councils are not strangers to nonprofits. In fact, most of them have strong advisory councils, and it's to expand and to make the program better, to get some people with different ideas in there to start helping and making expanding the program. So we have 5 right now of Redwood City community members that are passionate about the mission of Downtown Streets team, and we're going to work to expand and impact the community. We're going to focus on, our mission is focusing on education, advocacy, and policy applying to the unsheltered in our communities to support the mission. And we wrote a little mission statement. The mission of the Community Advisory Council is to educate, advocate, and support policy on all issues of homelessness in our community, and to promulgate, distribute, or talk about the mission of Downtown Streets team and their work in the community. What are we going to do? We're going to fundraise. We're going to get some fundraisers out there to try and raise some funds for our local program. And this is all local here to Redwood City. Each of the 7 Downtown Street Team chapters have their own community advisory council, or they will be trying to get one as they grow. So these things that we're talking about here are going to be specific to Redwood City. We're going to build local partnerships. Like I said, we're going to try and reach out and do as much outreach as we can to neighborhood groups and businesses around the area. We're going to try and get some linkages to unions, try and get some union buy-in. We're going to try and get some job training. We have a meeting with Job Train next week to try and just find an avenue to where we can quickly get people into jobs if they need them. We want to grow and expand the team. We want to support the workshops and events that Downtown Streets team does. They do a phenomenal job of doing workshops for their members, like how to fill out a resume, how to speak in public, which is very important for job interviews and the like. They do a lot of great little workshops with their team members, and to advocate and problem solve if there's something that comes up that we need to look at. And the 5 of us have a great reach of networking knowledge around the city. So I think it's going to be a good group of people to work with. Some of the expectations that we have, we serve a 1-year term, and that's going to be up to 4 years. We just completed our guidelines or our bylaws, if you will. We put together this whole thing from scratch. And so I think we decided that it was going to be a 1-year term up to 4 terms. So 4 years, I think, is a good amount of time to be on this commission. We're going to help plan fundraising events. We're going to obviously advance the mission of Downtown Streets team, attend bi-weekly meetings, and be active presence on the team. And we're going to go to the success meetings that they have every Wednesday, the actual Downtown Streets team, and then get to know members. We're going to try and do shifts with them on the streets and walk around with them and get to know them. We'll attend the DST and our CIC events, and we'll provide updates to the DST staff and to the whole DST board of directors itself, which is one board that governs all of the Downtown Streets team programs. So how can you help? You can just say hi. It's really important. Like I said, the worst thing that homeless, unsheltered people feel is that people look down to them. So if you see a homeless guy on the street, just say hi to him. Make eye contact. Just say hi. That does a lot for their self-confidence. House a team member. If you have a job opening and you want to take on one of our team members, let us know. We'd love to get them into jobs. We used to have Purple Tie here in town, and I think it's James was his name. He did an incredible job of just taking anybody. If you sent him anybody that wanted to work, he would put them to work and give them a job. And that was just phenomenal. He was a great asset that we have. He moved to Hayward now, so that's a little difficult for people to get over there. You can donate, you can volunteer, all the regular stuff, or you can join us. We have 5 right now. I think we decided in our bylaws that we were going to take up to 9 members to have a full 9 member. So I'll put some links in the chat. There's an application and there's like an info page, and then I'll put the actual Downtown Streets team webpage on there too. Come to a meeting every Wednesday behind the library. I don't know if you've seen the shed back there. They painted it like the yellow color there. You're all more than welcome to come at noon. They do a little success for the week kind of thing. It's kind of a motivational kind of little thing where they talk about the successes of the week and they highlight somebody, and that's when they give their promotions. If somebody graduates from a yellow shirt to a gray shirt, or a green shirt, then that's when they'll do it at those success meetings. Drop an email. We have a new email address, rwccac@streetsteam.org. And that's it. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Chris, this is Keith. I'm at the library frequently and I see your team members out there in the morning and afternoon, and always try to go out of my way to.
All right, so we're going to maneuver with this audio issue in the dining room here. Does anyone have any questions about Downtown Streets team, about the homeless situation in Redwood City, about this advisory council, or anything that you'd like to ask Chris?
Chris,
I
go on.
I was commenting, I think there, and I don't think.
Jerry, you have a question?
Yeah, I don't want to butt in, but just a question about the tremendous amounts of
can't hear
trash
you.
that's,
Oh, there we go.
okay. You hear me now?
I can. Thank
Okay.
you.
Just a question about the huge amounts of trash that seem to build up around the camps. I don't mind the camps because I know that they have, some of them are well organized. They have to have a place to live. That's fine. But most people, I think, are really put off by the amounts of garbage that build up, broken bikes and carts, and you've seen it.
Yeah, that's so a lot of different tiered answer here, but a lot of the times it depends on whether it's county or city jurisdiction, or whether it's Caltrain jurisdiction, which I remember when I was working, we had a horrible time with connecting with Caltrain to try and clean up the tracks. They didn't want to do it. Caltrans also has a small team that they can't get to, and they have a big area that they cover. But if it's in the city's jurisdiction, I had a good relationship with Public Works, and they would usually come out. But also now that Downtown Streets team is mobile, if you let them know or let me know or send that email, we can try and get the mobile team out there to clean up that debris. And what they've been doing is doing a lot of outreach with the camps, providing garbage bags, providing cleaning supplies, and just a lot of them are very good about doing that. If they have the supplies and they have garbage bags, they don't mind cleaning up and putting the garbage bags on the side of the road, and letting us or letting the Public Works come by and pick up the trash. So it's a work in progress. Obviously, some of these people have severe mental illness that makes them want to hoard and gather belongings and stuff, and so it's hard for them to actually do that cleanup work. But we've made some good success with giving them the trash bags and saying, hey, if you clean it up, and put the trash bags out here, at least we can get rid of that trash for you, and you won't be causing more attention for yourself.
Chris,
Chris, this is Keith, and I was going to comment that I'm at the library frequently, and of course,
Keith, I understand you had a question. My volume was turned down. I apologize for that.
I have a feeling you can't hear me, Johanna. I'm stopping. I've tried 4 times.
We can hear you.
So Keith, we
Yeah,
can hear you. Others can hear you on there. So I think
I could hear you.
Volume issue with Johanna, and because they've been hearing both Chris and
It
him.
was for Chris, and so I'll wait and speak to him first.
Go ahead, I can hear you.
Hi, Chris, it's Keith. The point I'm making is that I've worked at the library for several years now, and I remember when your team started meeting there and showing up, and I've always gone out of my way to go over and introduce myself and thank you for the work they do. And I'm only retelling what you've already said. They seem to be extremely grateful for recognition, for compliments, and it's sincere from my part. And so, as you've already said to all of us, that to speak to them, to say hello, to thank them and so on, means a lot to them. And so I'm pleased to do it, and I know others would too when they have an opportunity to do the same. Yeah. We also have the cleanest library yard in the peninsula.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Keith. I apologize for the feedback. Gail.
Just a little comment. I was blown away by 78,000 cigarette butts. That's, I participated in a cleanup not too long ago, and there's just so many of them. And I noticed by the Sequoia Station, they have a little butt collector, and it's divided into two parts, so you can vote like for a pirate or a clown, like to incentivize people to actually throw their butts into a receptacle. So I don't know if there's any others around the city, but I thought that was really terrific.
That is terrific. I haven't seen that. That's really creative. Did anybody else have any questions? Our representative from City Trees is not on with us yet. Go ahead, Leslie.
I have a question about the housing. I see that, people have been housed. Where are they housed?
So homeless people, where are they housed?
It says the downtown streets
Oh,
has housed.
yeah, so there's a lot of different ways they could get housed. There's a voucher system that they have where they can get a voucher to be housed. They get on an application list and they get a waiting list. And then as apartments come up, their case manager will usually take them around and show them the apartment. And then whether their rent is subsidized or not, it depends on how much they can afford. And so they usually get vouchers. There's another thing called rapid rehousing, which is it's a little bit quicker to get people housed rather than go through the whole lengthy process. And you have to qualify to be rapidly rehoused. There's also, I just sat on a task force on my mental health commission on a housing task force, and they have put significant amount of money into looking for housing for severely mental ill patients. And so that's something that's coming up soon is whether it's a house that's converted into apartments, or there's other things like that. But a lot of times they'll also move into sober living houses. So once if they have recovery issues, they can go to a sober. They go through rehab, they go through dry out, and then they go to a sober living house. And so there's a bunch of those around the area, sober living house areas.
Chris, to follow up on that, has there been, I know a few years ago, like housing was just an issue, right? For anybody who had a voucher, they just couldn't even find apartments or housing. Has that changed a bit, or is it still kind of a very lengthy process and a struggle for people to find housing even with a voucher system?
Yeah, I'm sure it's still a struggle. I've been out of that for a couple of years now, but one of the biggest problems, it wasn't the availability of the houses, it was the location of the houses. So if you have a homeless or an unsheltered person here in Redwood City and an apartment popped up in Pacifica, they could afford it, they could go, they got a voucher, but they don't want it because it's too far away from here. And this is their home and this is where they want to be. So that's the real struggle. There's not enough for the people that are here to come and do their thing here. So I think that for me, that was my biggest experience in seeing that, is that there was availability. It's just that people didn't want to leave out of the area. And some people do. We found places for people in Stockton and for across the bay. And so they were just like, yeah, let's go. I need to get into a house, so I'm going to go anywhere I can. So we've had success in that. And I'm just not talking about DST. I'm talking about the whole MDT program that when I was working that we would get people housed into, but it could be anywhere, and it's a struggle for everybody. So it just depends. Yeah, we did have a moment when I was working that we did house every single veteran that we had in town at the time. So that was a really good accomplishment. I don't know what it is now, but we could probably get Officer Otterson in here to talk about that as well, because he's the new guy that took over my spot.
Thank you.
Oh, and let me introduce real quick. I see John O'Hara's here. Came a little late to the party, but he came nonetheless. We just finished up, John. John's also a member of our Community Advisory Council, and I'll let him give you a brief introduction of himself.
Yeah, I apologize. I was thinking 7:30 for some reason on my schedule, but never late when people are still here. So yeah, I live up in Emerald Hills, just up the hill from you, Farm Hill folks, and been a part of helping out with the downtown streets teams for a little while. And in the community, I I am a horticultural therapist, and I work with people with dementia. I do contracts with different communities in the peninsula across the East Bay. And I'm also a master gardener. So presently I do a little program with the downtown streets teams. The idea is for them to be able to have that responsibility and hopefully, get involved in some sort of agricultural landscaping job opportunity. So that's kind of like where my niche is and my passion. And I'm on the advisory board to get more tied in the community so I can have an influence in a positive way to those who want to be able to be a part of it, but are trying to find their way to that place where they feel safe, where they can actually contribute and be a part of a solution in the Redwood City area. So I'm happy to be here. And
Well, thank you so much, John. I really appreciate that. And I think gardening is healing for many people. And so I love that you're doing that. And I appreciate the work that you're doing. Did anyone else have any questions before we move on to city trees?
I was going to, Chris, as a follow-up to your comment about homeless veterans, I also follow that very closely, and you're exactly right. 100% of all the known veterans are now housed in Redwood City. So
wow, that's wonderful.
I'm going to say 2 years. It may be more than one, but less than two. But I'm quite sure it's been 2 years. So 100% of all the known veterans are off the street.
Wow.
Now that is something we can all be very, very proud of. That's fantastic. Who had a question? I'm sorry. Oh, Gerd. Hi, Gerd. How are you?
Doing fine. How are you? The county bought 2 or 3 hotels last year. I think one in Redwood Shores, one in Redwood City. Are they beginning to be filled up, or are people moving in there?
I have absolutely no information on that. I have no idea.
Right.
That might be something the city maybe be able to answer that question. They would know specifically, but I'm sure they could probably find the answer since they're not directly involved in that.
No, it was a county project.
Yeah, so I think you're talking about 10 Place Suites, and so they are actually
Yes.
in the process of moving people in now. So it's a go.
Has anyone actually moved, or they're just in the process?
I think they're in the process of moving people in, and I can get a further update from that specific team for you all too.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so we're going to move on to city trees, and I see I have Gwen here and I have Philippe here. So who would like to give the presentation, and do you need to share your screen?
I can start, and for now, I think we should maybe keep it I don't want to go through PPT slides and put people to sleep. So yeah, so we are here tonight actually with David as well, who is our treasurer, and Gwen, our previous board member, and then I'm currently heading the City Trees organization, so I'm happy to talk about it. Really, this is more about pushing awareness of our organization in the greater community, because I'm not sure how many people know about us. We've been around for about 21 years. We've been active planters in the city. Over the 20 years, we've planted about 3,500 trees and pruned just as many. So we also do maintenance. And we really like to work with community members, both in terms of outreach, and we encourage community members to volunteer at our events. You can find a lot of information on citytrees.org, where we're minting our new website, so it's more accessible and you can do online signups. But we also like to ask any suggestions from the residents about places or in your neighborhood or streets that are very barren or treeless, and you think would improve the overall streetscapes and the canopy. We're more than happy to work with community members to liaise with the Department of Public Works at the city, and also do our own plantings at such sites. Similarly, if there are trees that are in the right of way, so in that medium between the sidewalk and the street, that you feel are neglected or in some way, I don't know, preventing you from walking or doing other bad things, please reach out to us and we can see what City Trees can do organizationally. Otherwise, we also work with, again, the Department of Public Works to address any issues in the public space. And finally, I know in the community there's been a lot of talk about removal of trees by developers and other actors and homeowners when they're building ADUs. And so we are mainly a tree planting organization, but we do have some part of an advocacy. So we have an effort to try to update the Redwood City Tree Ordinance, which right now is 50 years old and woefully out of date, but it's a very slow moving process. And there's a lot of stakeholders and actors that need to be consulted, from the city arborist to the planning to the Department of Public Works. So we're slowly moving to update that. But as we're doing this process, we also want to hear from residents, what do you guys want to see in our ordinance, or what do you imagine the streetscape and treescape, I guess, of the city to be like? And is there anything that you think could use improvement that could be addressed in the updated ordinance? We're all ears and want to hear the community comments. And I'll let David or Gwen fill in if there's anything else I may have missed.
Well, I could say before Dave starts, because he's a hard act to follow, so I'll go before him. Joanna helped organize the saving of a big oak tree that a developer was going to take down last October. So she put was it a GoFundMe?
It was at change.org.
Change.org. She did one of those and got, was it 3,000 signatures? And a number of us got together and went and met the developer's arborist, who was meeting with the city arborist at the house where this was going to be cut down. And we had signs and we protested, and they didn't cut it down, and they changed their architect's plans to accommodate the tree. So we felt that was a great victory. So thank you, Joanna. And,
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That was a full community effort. And Matt, who lives next door to the tree, reached out on Nextdoor and said, how can we save this tree? Who knows how to work with the city and navigate this? So I said, I'll help Matt. And then look at, we all came together and we saved that tree. It's a 350-year-old tree. So
yeah,
that was
beautiful, beautiful tree. So thank you so much. And Dave, take it away.
Just one small note to add, which is we deal with different entities. Sometimes we're dealing with the city, and sometimes we're dealing with the school districts, either the high school districts or the elementary school districts. These are separate entities and we deal with them in different ways. But when Philippe mentioned we planted over 3,500 trees, that included those three different entities that we deal with.
Right. So we recently planted in Redwood City Elementary Schools and also in the Sequoia High School Union District, which includes Woodside, Sequoia, Menlo Atherton, and even East Palo Alto Academy. So our reach is more than just Redwood City. We also try to plant in the county, but the county has a very peculiar methods that are somewhat difficult to work around. So I'll just leave it at that. But yes, and I want to thank you, Joanna and Gwen, for leading the effort to saving that magnificent oak. I think it was on Connecticut, and we were hoping to actually, put into law or the ordinance some guidelines that would prevent from these old, I guess that should be called heritage trees, from being even considered for removal, such that one doesn't need to go and try to get 3,000 community members to really speak up to save this tree. So hopefully that will be addressed in the updated ordinance.
I'm really excited about that work. I think a lot of people assume that we have a heritage tree ordinance on the books that has enough teeth in it that will prevent this from happening, and unfortunately we don't. So we really appreciate those efforts. And welcome, David. I'm sorry I didn't introduce you. I didn't realize that you were with City Trees, and we're very happy to have you.
Not a problem at all.
Is there, would you like to expand on anything else about the program, like what your budget is, where you get your funding, what type of trees you do, who is the program open to, is there income limits?
Got it. So we serve all of Redwood City. There's no income limits. It's basically wherever within the city there are opportunities to plant and increase the tree cover. For myriad of potential benefits, from health, clean air, shading, property value increase. There's a lot of potential benefit and greenhouse gas sequestrations. So there's a lot of benefits to planting trees. So we plant everywhere, and specifically recently, we've had funding from state agencies. We applied for grants through CAL FIRE that specifically address, it's called an equity grant. So we have been recently planting in the Redwood City DAC, which is historically disadvantaged community census tract. It's currently in the Stambau, Heller, and Friendly Acres neighborhood that we addressed, and we planted 150 trees last year, specifically there to improve their canopy, because frankly speaking, they have very few trees in that neighborhood. And otherwise, for community in terms of organization, we are more than happy to have volunteers come and join us. As I mentioned before, most of our information can be found on the website. And in terms of we're 100% volunteer run organization. Most of our funding comes from community fundraising. So we have over 20 years developed a lot of relationships with people within our community, and they've been very generous. We have our I guess holiday drive, Christmas drive, somewhere around December, and we rely on those donations to carry us through the year. In addition to these governmental grants that we can win with the state, and then those really push us as well. And I don't know if in the past we may have had some corporate sponsorship as well as donations as well, but it was before my time, so I wouldn't.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Chris, you have a question?
I do have a question. I'm seeing a great opportunity here for some of our downtown streets team members to volunteer to help plant trees.
Great. Sounds good. Yeah, so we have actually, fall is our planting season, and we do have 6 planting events already planned until December. So we should connect maybe after meeting and see if there's opportunities to involve the downtown streets team on these events.
Yeah, that would be great. And you just emailed me, so I have your email. If you can send me some dates that you're going to be out there, or if there's dates that you need people to show up, maybe we can get some of our folks out there. That'd be great.
Certainly. Yeah.
I have a question. When it comes to once the trees are in, whose responsibility is to maintain them?
Right. So as you probably know, as a master gardener, planting is only, well, maybe 10% of the effort. There's a lot to go after that. And that is also a challenge that we face. Unofficially speaking, I think for the first 2 years, City Trees is responsible for pruning and maintenance of the tree. Most of the trees that we plant, we have a watering agreement with a homeowner that is adjacent to the site, and then they agree and sign a document that they will water the tree weekly, 10 gallons a week, which sounds like a lot, but we calculated it's about $5 a year of watering costs, given the current Redwood City water rates, to care for that tree. It's just about remembering to go out there and really water those trees. And we usually let them grow in the first year to 2, and by the second year, we definitely come back and prune to make sure that the structure is proper for healthy growth and canopy spread. And also, so they're not in the path either the pedestrians or the trucks on the street side of the tree. So, and after they become bigger and larger and they're out of the reach of our hands because we don't climb on ladders, the city itself becomes the maintenance body, or if it's within the school districts, usually the school maintenance crew takes over and maintains the trees further on.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions? I can talk trees all day.
Yeah, Flip, this is James Stafford. One of the other questions I had, I know that you talked about you plant trees. Is there the selection of trees, and you're probably working with the city on obviously not just planting any tree, right? Because they may not be compatible with the environment as well as the landscape and that. The reason why I bring it up is there kind of a set number of trees or type of trees that you're going after? Like, drought tolerant, ones that are going to kind of stand up over the years and not require kind of extensive watering. I bring this up is because the city planted a bunch of trees in the 70s in my front yard that were birch trees, which are thirsty trees. And unfortunately, over the last 10 years, they've all died because they just can't survive without, a significant amount of water, which obviously left the front pretty vacant. We had to cut all of them down because they died. The kind of replacing the old world trees that were just nice to view, but were not really designed for the landscape that we have. Are we matching the type of tree with the landscape?
Correct. Yes, the field has moved a lot since the 1960s and 70s when they first built these tract housing. And people are really into exotic trees. People love magnolias. I mean, they're beautiful trees, but they're from Atlanta, from Georgia, the South. They're really not meant to be around here. And ditto with a bunch of other species, including birch trees. So city trees is a big proponent of planting native California trees, and that includes coast live oaks and valley oaks, if the space is large, or western redbuds, which are smaller trees that are also native to this region. And vast majority of the trees are drought tolerant that we plant specifically for this reason of being able to survive in drier and drier climate that we have in the peninsula. So yes, we are taking care of that, at least in our plantings. And I think the city itself has updated their master tree list, and I think you can find it also on their website in terms of what they recommend to plant. And they do highlight drought tolerant and California native species. And I personally recommend planting California natives because they have the highest likelihood of survival, and they also offer other myriad of benefits, including habitat for local flora and fauna, from insects to squirrels to other small rodents. But yes, so we have updated those, and we do try our best to plant native and drought tolerant.
Yeah, thank you. Because you highlighted the magnolia trees, and up and down Farm Hill, there's magnolia trees, and there's, you could see some of them are well maintained, probably well watered, and are just on the cusp of dying, and so there's obviously that kind of erodes away the featurescape of Farm Hill, but also trying to take care of these and watering them and just limping them along is not kind of in the benefit of anybody.
Yeah, and there's also a generational overturn. A large number of Redwood City trees were planted in the 50s and 60s, and they're coming to the end of life for these roads. And so there's a lot of pressure on the city and city trees to try to replace these old and really struggling trees. But we don't have infinite amount of funds, and the city itself is struggling on that front, and they have very limited budget on the street side. People are they have a lot more pressure to fix potholes and other more hard infrastructure. So trees kind of come last. So we do our best that we can. So
thank you for those questions, James. I know Farm Hill does have a lot of magnolia trees, and I always wonder about that when I see them. And we also have a lot of areas that don't have sidewalks, and the areas that do have sidewalks, the trees lift up. So it's a safety issue. So that is an issue here in our neighborhood specifically. And I completely agree that the Stanball Heller neighborhood absolutely needs more trees. Of all the neighborhoods in Redwood City, that neighborhood desperately needs trees.
Right.
So I appreciate those efforts. I see that Chris Johnson has his hand up. Chris. Chris, go ahead. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Hey, Philippe, great presentation. I'm a long-standing supporter of city trees. I've participated in plantings and prunings over the years. Question for you, what's it gonna take for us to get over the hump on the heritage tree ordinance? I know that a few people over the years have taken a run at that. Is it require sponsorship or ownership by city council, or what can we do as residents of Redwood City to help push that thing along?
Yeah, thank you for your question. It's very pertinent. And we want to make sure we know exactly where to push before we ask people to push. So for right now, I think there's internal logistical organizational parts of trying to get all the stakeholders together on the same page, that so they can agree on the new language for the ordinance, and then really comes just bringing this up either to the council or planning commission as to an area that should be addressed and is of concern to the general public, because City Trees sometimes goes in front of the council, but they feel like we're a one issue organization. So they don't really, it really helps to have, you know, residents come directly and say, this is something that's important and it should be addressed by the city staff. And once we have a more concrete vision as to how this is going to go in the next maybe 6 months to a year, then we will certainly reach out to the community and ask if we can support this effort more wholeheartedly, and that will be very helpful to push it through. I don't know if, David, you have other comments on this particular question.
I don't
Maybe not.
have other comments other than there are a lot of players and it's a lengthy process, and we're engaging in that process, and I wouldn't expect to see immediate results. I think it's going to take time.
Yeah.
Well,
All right,
that's
thank
where
you for
I
the
come
update
in.
on that.
That's where I come in and Joanna comes in. We do the dirty work.
Well, you can certainly count on me, and I'm certain members of our organization that will be there, be vocal, and get organized to get people at meetings at the time and place they need to be there to speak up the importance of saving our heritage trees. So consider us a partner in that endeavor.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Johanna. Yeah, and thank you, Chris, for the question. So.
All right. Are there any more questions? It was wonderful. All right. If not, Gwen, did you want to say something? No. Okay.
No, just thank you for having me.
Oh, well, we're very grateful that that you came and spent time with us tonight and shared this information. And we're excited about the work you're doing. So we are right on time, which is wonderful. We're going to move on now to Jenny. I'm going to make her a co-host, and she's going to talk to us about Redwood City's housing element. All right. I think you should be able to share.
Is this work?
Yes.
For everyone? Awesome. Thank you all again so much for having me. I think there are a few new faces that joined. My name is Jenny. I'm acting as the city staff liaison for tonight's neighborhood association meeting. So I'm just going to take some time and share, general updates about things maybe that you guys have been already tracking. So we'll just get started. I apologize. I actually don't have a slide for my first update. I remembered it actually when, as part of this conversation, Chris had brought up that there was a man who had an opportunity to live in Pacifica, but he wanted to stay close in Redwood City. He wanted to stay home in our community. And so that's actually one of my first updates. On Monday, I'm in the housing division. We are proposing an amendment to the affordable housing ordinance for a live-work preference. And so the live-work preference would basically, in summary, allow people who are eligible for affordable housing, to have a priority in affordable housing units in Redwood City if they previously lived in Redwood City, are currently living in Redwood City, have been offered a job in Redwood City, or are currently living in Redwood City. And so this is kind of a concept of trying to make sure that people who were previously displaced in the past have an opportunity to come back and rejoin our community. And so that's one of my first updates. Happy to take more questions on that after I run through all the other updates as well. I'm going to skip this redistricting slides. I think we're going to touch on these later. So my next update is actually on the transit district. So work continues toward the redevelopment of the transit district. It's adjacent to the Sequoia Station Shopping Center. And so at this point, Caltrain consultants they're doing their technical studies around entrance points, access, egress, and all those needs for an elevated train station. Additionally, we are doing planning studies for route and site planning. So Samtram's routes and bus routes are underway. And so, that's just a really quick way of saying you can get more involved. www.redwoodcity.org/transit plan has all the information on there. Again, I'm happy to connect you with a transportation planner or someone if you have more questions on this. I also want to give a quick update on a grade separation feasibility study. And so just as a little bit of a background, the grade separation is basically creating physical separations between railroad tracks and street crossings. And so this grade separation feasibility study is basically coming up with a bunch of alternatives and design options for each of these grade crossings. And a lot of the evaluation is based on community input. And so that's where I'm reaching out to you all. And so, it'll be evaluated, these options will be evaluated based on community input, technical and environmental constraints, site planning constraints. And so there is going to be another round of outreach for this in this late fall, and it'll be the conversation will be surrounding the grade separations in the southern crossings, which is Maple Streets, Main Streets, and the Chestnut Streets. I will say this website, www.rwctransitplan.com, is the coolest website I have personally ever been on. They have actually built the website like you're in a community room. It's a very open house and you can click through all the information, but just wanted to give you a little bit of heads up that there will be more outreach coming forth on the grade separation study. And then the last and I guess biggest update is I want to talk briefly about our housing element process. Just a little bit of background again, the housing element is an 8-year plan for housing. So it determines how much we build, where we build, what we build, how to create affordable housing. We talk about programs and services that help people stay housed. And so in the May of this year, we held our first workshop, and that workshop was an introduction basically. So we explained the housing element process and then really asked people or residents and community members who showed up what values were important to them moving forward. So these were the 7 most top goals, top important items for community members who attended the workshop. So providing different types of housing, supporting our schools by building teacher housing and housing for young families, preserving our existing low-income housing units and building new affordable homes, taking care of homelessness and homeless, and prioritizing housing needs for low-income community members, locating homes in places where you can walk for services and transit and jobs, and then also having diversity of community members, really. And then finally, keeping our city clean and beautiful with green and tree-lined streets. So I'm really glad we have the city tree team here with us tonight, because that is one of the goals that seem to be very important to people who came to our workshop. And so different values appeal to different sets of people. People who are renters answered and valued things differently than owners. People who are Spanish speaking valued things differently than native English speakers, and so on. So it was a really interesting process. And so we're going to be using these statements to help us kind of define the strategy, the housing element strategy going forward. And so this is just a quick, this presentation I'm giving you is a little snippet of what's going to happen at our next workshop, but I wanted to, relay this information a little bit earlier on. So the strategies that we're that can be considered or can be incorporated is like looking at missing middle housing. So that's duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes in certain neighborhoods. We currently allow accessory dwelling units on all single family properties. So we'll continue championing that or encouraging that as a source of housing in existing neighborhoods. Other strategies include preserving mobile home parks, and then also allowing just mixed use developments on major or main corridors of the city. And so again, we're going to be discussing this all in much more detail at our upcoming workshop. It's on Thursday, September 30th at 6 p.m. I really encourage all of you to come and bring your friends and family. It'll be a really good conversation, and this housing element really does guide us for the next 8 years. So it's incredibly important in terms of figuring out like the best way we as a community want to create housing. So you can register for the event at welcomehomerwc.org. I will send all this information in the chat below. And if you have interest or if you have time, we would really appreciate your feedback on those values. So like the 7 values that were selected in the earlier workshop, we can always take more feedback. So I'll paste this survey link also in the chat as well. So those are all my 3 or 4 updates, and I'm happy to take any questions on the updates. I'm personally from the housing staff, so I can take housing questions a little bit more easily, but if you have questions on, for example, the transit district or the transit planning, I'm so happy to relay any questions, concerns you may have.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I really appreciate this presentation. I really appreciate it. I did have a question that came up. It was the first thing you announced about the live-work preference.
Oh, yes, of course.
So I'm really concerned about our young families who have not just low income, but extremely low income. In this area, our median income is high, and a lot of people have extremely low income. And I don't think we're sufficiently meeting those needs. And so I worry about not having what about having a preference for children who go to school in Redwood City to ensure that their families can, a lot of people have been displaced and the children are still going to school here. So has there been any talk about including going to school, that be a preference there involved in that?
We did talk about that. And I think the concept was that if you were previously living in Redwood City and your children must go to school in Redwood City, and if you had to move, then you would qualify, assuming that your income is under, it's eligible, so eligible for affordable housing. And so that was kind of like one of our main concerns is like, people are leaving. It's really expensive here, not gonna lie. And so we want to give other communities have just live work preference, but we wanted to extend it to if you ever lived in Redwood City and you were displaced, you can come back.
That's wonderful. I'm so happy to hear about that. I'm also interested in how would you go about ensuring that our mobile home parks are going to stay here? What does that involve?
Yeah, so that is part of the anti-displacement strategic plan. I hope you have heard about that. It's basically kind of a citywide plan that will be presented to council later on this fall, and that looks at different ways of anti-displacement. And one of those is mobile home preservation. We just want to make sure, if in the case of a sale or a conversion or something like that of a mobile home park, that those residents have a safety net, and so we're basically exploring those options right now. And so basically we'll be recommending whatever we study and in the next 2 months to council, and then after that, council will direct city staff to continue further studying and coming back with either policy updates or programs.
Thank you. Thank you. Chris, I see you've got your hand up.
Yes. Jenny, thanks for the presentation. That was very informative. I have a question. It seems like there's no shortage of offices being built in Redwood City, and I'm sure you're more than familiar with the jobs housing imbalance. And it seems like every office project will equal a lost housing opportunity, right? If a site becomes an office building, it's a site then that we can't build housing. And I know that we have some pretty aggressive numbers from RENA that are gonna, I think, what is our latest number, like 4,500 units we're gonna be required to build a city. So what do we do to try to find a little bit more of a balance between office and housing production?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great question. And that's something we, in the housing department, definitely, it's a balance. I'll say that. And so I think, one of the ordinances amendments that is going forward on Monday is that we want to make sure something that's different that has not happened in the past is that these non-residential developers are actually starting to build affordable housing for us instead of paying an impact fee. And so we, for us, we're like, yeah, if you're going to build the housing, we are very happy with that. So one of the amendments on Monday to the affordable housing ordinance is making sure that these promised units, these required units, especially from non-residential developers, get delivered and at or around the same time their office developments or commercial developments are getting constructed at the same time. And so we're definitely keeping a tight eye on everything. Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
Chris. Does
Thank-
anyone else have
thank you.
any questions? I know Gert is our resident expert on transportation and sidewalks and biking. And so, Gert, go ahead.
Right now, I want to know what is the status of the land swap, where the county and the city want to switch to plots, and that would pretty much threaten the RV parking lot and the Maple Street shelter. So, but I can't find out what the current status is on this.
Yeah, let me check back on that one. I don't have a status update on, unfortunately, but I promise I will get back to you next week with any questions you guys voice to me right now.
And then the other one is the grade separation seems to be based on money. There are like three options. One is, I want to say 300 million, which is just Whipple. The second option would be around 600 million, which would be the 3 north crossings. And then there is, if you do all 6, it would be at least 2 billion, I think. So the biggest question is, where do we find the money to do 1, 3, or 6?
I will get back to you on that one. Apologies. That's a different department than me, so I promise. Gwen?
I had a question about the, it's going to be an office, no, it's apartment buildings, I think, at Maple and Elm.
Maple and Elm.
Or Main and Elm, right in the Main and Elm restaurant parking lot. There's a giant fig tree, and it's very, very old. And I wondered why, is there any possibility that tree could be saved? I don't know if you would be the one to talk to, Jenny, but I started gathering signatures and I just got overwhelmed with other things. So
I can find the staff person who would be able to give you an adequate answer for that. So the specific place is Main and Elm in the restaurant parking.
yes.
If you could send me either an address or that location, then I can find a staff person and we can.
Thank you very much. I'll
And
do
so
that.
the question is like, what's going to happen to that fig tree, right?
Yeah, I think it's scheduled to be cut down.
Oh,
But
okay.
it looks like it might be like 125 years old. It's rather old and it's producing. And I think there's also an avocado intertwined with it. And it's a very, very unusual couple of trees. And everything else is just industrial around it. So thank you, Jenny. I'll do
I hear
that.
you. Thank you all.
Thank you for those efforts, Gwen. I know I need to circle back with you on that because that area, there's a development going in. I'm sure Chris Johnson knows the name of the development going in there. And so now is the time to work on that. So thank you. Leslie and James.
Yeah, I have a question for Jenny. So I know there's a lot of apartments and condos that are being developed and built, especially along Middlefield, and in kind of the downtown area, a little bit south. There's some old kind of strip mall-y type areas that seem to be kind of run down. And is there any plan to kind of redevelop those and actually build affordable housing above some of the retail that's in there right now? It seems like a place that's kind of centrally located near a grocery store, convenient, those things. Are there plans to kind of redevelop that into something that would be kind of more usable for the city?
I'm gonna have to look into, and what area are you speaking of? Sorry, James,
So it's basically right across the street from was it not Smart Final? Was it the grocery outlet?
Yeah, the South Main project, got it. Yeah. Let me check back on you with that anyways, and then I want to make sure I give you guys the right answer, or if there's a planning application in right now. I'll be sure to let you know if there's any plans for that.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of kind of the north and west eastern part of the city was developed, and some of the more southern part of the downtown city area seems to be neglected for housing.
And I think, I don't want to drive this point home again, but I think something that is really important is the housing element meeting workshops, especially because that is the part where the community can start kind of placing where they would like future development to be. But on that note, I will check on the current project statuses for you and see if there is anything that is planned or so far along that area.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Chris?
Yes, so that question about grocery outlet. So our city is looking to expand the footprint of the downtown precise plan, and they've actually, they've called it sort of Central Redwood City. And part of that effort is going to be looking at expanding the footprint to as far north as Whipple Avenue, as far south as Woodside Road, and then possibly going east and including sort of grocery outlet and those retail and apartment buildings on Broadway as you head down towards Woodside Road. So there's definitely an effort underway. And if you go to the Redwood City's website and search for Central Redwood City, you'll find, I don't know if they've actually set aside a website, but you'll see some information on it. But that is definitely part of the plan, which is to increase the footprint of the downtown precise plan. So it will increase the opportunity sites for more medium and high density housing. And that would definitely include the grocery outlet area. But there's a lot of people that are very loyal to, incredibly loyal to grocery outlets. So I would worry about if there was ever any plans to bulldoze grocery outlet, because they do have a loyal following.
Yeah. My point wasn't to bulldoze that, but the fact that if you want convenience for services, right? There's obviously a grocery store very close by, so there would be walking distance. So you would.
Well, you could actually do a grocery store on the ground floor and build high density housing above it.
Yeah.
It's a great location. It's an incredible location.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, James. So I think if it's okay, we're a little bit over. we'll move on to our quick updates. Now, my daughter Emma was going to give an update tonight on the Farm Hill Family News and Events, but I can't compete with the Woodside football game that's going on tonight. So she just popped her head in and said, Mom, can I go to the Woodside football game? So I said, sure. So she will be doing that next month, but I'll go ahead and share what she had prepared. So there's going to be a coastal cleanup day, and that's going to be happening on September 18th from 9 to noon. So it's a good place. Like Keith, you could bring the scouts or your children and their friends or classmates. You can safely go outside to the beach and collectively help clean up the beach. And so Chris is going to put some links in the chat for that. I mean, there's locations all along the coast from Pacifica all the way down to Pescadero. Also on the same day, happening September 18th, is a National Museum Day, which is put on by the Smithsonian. And basically you go on to their website, you request a free ticket. Your free ticket gives you 2 free admissions to any participating museum. There's many in the Bay Area, and each ticket is general admission for 2 people. And you can also post like your family pictures of where you went with, just use the hashtag Museum Day. And so if you're looking for, you can start out at the beach and you can end up at the museum on the 18th. That's what's going on there. And then lastly, I want to share that the city of Redwood City is hiring people to work, teens to work at the Park and Rec department. Emma works there. She loves it. She works just a few hours a week. Not so much during COVID, but she referees games. She helps with after school programs. The pay is good. It looks really good on a college application, and it's a lot of fun. So if you have a young person or know of a young person who is 15, 16, 17 years old and has a few hours a week to work at the rec center, you can walk there. It's a lot of fun, and Chris will put the links to the chat for jobs at the rec center. Next up is our Redwood City, their redistricting process. There's a lot going on with redistricting. I have to say that our appointed representative that the council appointed to represent District 7 withdrew from the I guess board or commission, and they replaced that member with Danny Gasparini, the former mayor of Redwood City. So our District 7 workshop will be held on October 6th. I'll send out neighborhood news on the blog. I'll post it out on social media as we get a little bit closer. But these are really important meetings to attend because, like I've said over and over, these maps will determine how our city is divided up for the next 10 years until we have the next census. And it's very important that, the last districting process was really a fiasco, and we ended up with people from all over the city, and where our kids didn't even go to school in that neighborhood. So this is a really important time to lend your voice and participate. There is a survey going on. Chris will put the links in the chat. 4-question brief survey. It's available in English, Spanish, and Chinese. And they're just asking you about communities of interest. And the community of interest, they're looking, community of interest is a group of people that share common cultural, demographic, economic, ethnic, geographic, or social interest. For example, senior citizens, members of neighborhood associations, school families, people who live, downtown or near transit, even people who live near dog parks or dog-friendly communities. Anything can make up a community of interest. So please lend your voice and time for the 4-minute survey that will help determine on that redistricting process. And there'll be more to come. This will be something we'll be talking about at every meeting until this is wrapped up. I want to give a special shout out to our Redwood City firefighters. We're in the middle of wildfire season. They are overworked, understaffed. They are working their butts off. There's weeks that they don't even get to go home and see their families. They respond to mental health crisis calls, and they really need our support. If you happen to see one out on the street or driving by, wave, say thank you, express your gratitude, because they are working their tails off to keep all of us safe, especially here in Farm Hill. We are, we're one of the highest, I think we are the highest fire danger in Redwood City. And then lastly, I'm going to ask Chris to talk about Suicide Prevention Month, which is this month. This is a big issue for teens, mental health during COVID. This is a serious issue. And so the county has many events going on this month. So I'm going to have Chris briefly discuss what those are.
All right, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yes? Okay, good. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. Well, I'll take a couple of minutes. Can you see that little graphic there with all the dates on it? This month is Suicide Prevention Month. The San Mateo County Behavioral Health and Recovery Services, they acknowledge that suicide's a very big personal public health concerns. If not all of us know someone who has thought about it or attempted suicide, or we know someone who has died of suicide. That someone may be a family member, a coworker, neighborhood friend, or even a role model. As tragic and devastating as suicide is to be for the person in the community, there's a lot of ways that we can prevent suicide, from talking about it openly with another person to creating a society that is more connected and resilient. It's a complex issue. Mental health is still a major factor of suicide. The CDC says that a lot of the other factors include relationships, crisis in the past, or something that's going on in your life now, problematic substance abuse, physical health problems, financial problems, and even with this pandemic, the risk factors are exacerbated potentially. So the San Mateo County Behavioral Health has themed this year's Suicide Prevention Month as support transitions, reconnecting, re-entering, and rebuilding. Transitions can be unsettling and stressful, impacting our mental health and increasing risk factors for suicide. As we re-enter and rebuild the fabrics of our daily life that were so fundamentally disrupted, reconnecting in supportive relationships and practicing positive coping skills is essential for our emotional well-being. And that's about it. There's a lot of events that they're putting on. The Suicide Prevention Committee, which I'm part of, is putting on a lot of events. Tonight, they had the music and poetry for today's World Suicide Prevention Day. But really, the most important part is that we all can be partners and possibly, break the stigma and talk about suicide and mental health. And that's usually my spiel is ending the stigma of mental health and suicide. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I know suicide has affected our family personally this summer. We lost my cousin, 16 years old, lives in Los Angeles, and COVID was just very difficult. And so that was a tragedy in our family. So anything we can do to reach out to our young people and let them know that they're not alone, that these are difficult times, and we're in this together. So I think that brings us to open forum with about 3 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions about what I went through really quickly, or any other things you'd like to bring up that are happening in the neighborhood? Gail.
So first I wanted to say that on the 18th, you can actually do cleanup in Redwood City. You just have to let Public Works know where you're going to be, and then they'll come and pick up the bag. So you don't have to go to the coast. You can do it right here in Redwood City. And then I wanted to let people know about programs that are going on right now. Can you read that? It's about electrifying your homes, getting off of gas. And this month, there's a lot of rebates. So the city of Redwood City has rebates. Peninsula Clean Energy has rebates. So if you're thinking about it at all, now's the best time. There's always ongoing things. So you can go to Redwood City Public Works or PencleanEnergy.com and get more information and find out about the rebates. Thank you.
That's great, Gail. And thank you for making that sign. That's great. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share? Go, Keith.
This goes beyond our neighborhood, and I'll keep it to 30 seconds. For the last 9 years, I've been living and working as a social worker in Afghanistan. And I've worked for the last 3 weeks at the processing center in Washington, D.C. If any of your groups would like to know more about what's happening, how you can help, what services are available in the Bay Area, my email address is under my photograph.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Keith. On behalf of the whole community, I thank you for those efforts. That is marvelous. That is, I mean, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. So that's Keith at blackie.net. And I will certainly reach out and anything we can do to assist. That's fantastic. Thank you so much.
I can point you in the right direction and tell you what's happening there now. And as recently as, while we've been here, I probably have gotten 15 messages from friends that are captured in Kabul right now.
Wow.
Thank you very much, Keith. Question, is there, are we looking at trying to settle any of the refugees here in the Redwood City area? Is there any kind of program there?
I'm not aware of any in Redwood City, but there are several being hosted on the East Bay and in Sacramento. Most of you probably know that the largest Afghan community in the United States is in Fremont.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, we're so lucky to have you working on that. Thank you so much, Keith. Does anyone else have a announcement? We've got some big announcements tonight. Thank you, everyone. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share or an issue, something you'd like to see on the agenda next time? Is there someone you'd like me to invite, an issue that we should address? Maybe we should have Keith talk about what's happening in Afghanistan. Would you be up for that, Keith?
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
Yes, it's a service I'd love to offer, both for the benefit of the community and the benefit of the refugees. We've processed about 20,000 refugees through Washington, D.C. in the last 3 weeks.
Wow. God bless you. That's fantastic. Well, on that note of gratitude, I think we'll go ahead and close the meeting, and I'll look forward to, we'll be back. We'll be meeting again in November. I want to remind you, please vote the recall election by the 14th. Please send in your ballots. No matter how you vote, your vote is important. So please remember to vote. Thank you all for being here. We've got lots of work to do, and I look forward to seeing you in November. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Bye. Bye, Leslie.
Thank you so much.
Bye,
Great job.
Joanna. Bye.
Thank
Jan.
you, everyone. Good night.
Take care.
Night.